Hi everyone. Welcome to Val Fashion's YouTube channel. So today we're going to be learning how to make a princess armhole bustier beat. I'm going to have an illusion at the upper part, but it's not going to be cut. So it's going to be the lace fabric that will form the illusion. So these are my fabrics that I'll be using. This is my doll face satin, and then this is the lace fabric I'll be using. This is my lining, it's cotton lining, okay? And then I'll be using this Mikado satin for the sleeve, okay? Because this blouse is going to be having a sleeve. So to get started, I'll be drafting directly on my doll face satin. So I'm going to fold my fabric and then I'll show us the next thing to do. Okay, so to start drafting, okay, the measurements we need will show up on the screen. Okay, so haven't seen the measurements we need all around circumferences. We're going to be dividing it by 4. Okay, so to determine the amount of fabric to fold, I'll be using the hip circumference. This is because this blouse, it is a full blouse. I'm doing a full scale blouse which will stop at the upper part, at the upper hip region. Okay, so I'll be using the hip measurement to determine the amount of fabric to fold, and in this case the hip measurement is 37. So 37 divided by 4, that will give me 9 and 1/4. So I'll add 4 inches to whatever I have. That will be enough to take care of all my allowances. Remember, I'm drafting directly on my fabric. So I'll add 4 inches to that measurement. So that will give me 13 and 1/4 inch. Okay, so here we are. So once I have 13.5, that's fine. Okay, so now I have my 13.5. So I'll go ahead and draw my starting line, which is also serving as the shoulder line. Okay, so go ahead and mark the bust point. The bust point is 11, the underbust is 15, the waistline is 17, the hip line, which is the full length of the blouse. Remember, I said it will be stopping at the upper part of the hip, which is 25. So here we are. So just going to draw out my lines. Okay, so this is it. So now I'm going to get the shoulder slant by marking 3 inches, 8 inches. So now I'll come down by 1 inch. So I have my shoulder slant. So I haven't gotten the shoulder slant. So I'm going to enter the shoulder measurement of my client proper. The shoulder measurement of my client is 15 inches. When you divide 15 by 2, remember my fabric is on fold. When you divide 15 by 2, you have 7.5. So plus ½ inch for joining the sleeve. So that has brought me to 8 inches. So now I have my 8 inches. So I'll come down from this shoulder slant to enter the armhole line or the chest line or the armhole measurement. So her armhole measurement is 7.5. How did I come about this 7.5? I divided her bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5. Her bust circumference is 36. When you divide it by 6, it gives you 6 plus 1.5, that is 7.5. So here is my 7.5. So I'm just going to reconfirm my 8 inches mark here so that I can have a straight line. So here we are. So this is my 8 inches. So I'll connect it to this point. So now I have the chest line. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to go ahead and enter the nipple to nipple measurement. So the nipple to nipple measurement I have here, the nipple to nipple of my client is 7. 7 divided by 2, that is 3.5. So I'll be adding ½ inch to it. Remember, I'm drafting on my fabric, so that ½ inch is for joining both sides. So here I have 4 inches now, 4 inches, then 4 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect my lines together. So here we have the nipple to nipple measurement. Okay, so on this point here now, I'm going to enter the bust measurement. Okay, the bust measurement we're working with is 36. 36 divided by 4, that is 9 inches. So here I have my 9 inches. So now on this waistline and on the under bust line, because this is the under bust line, this is the waistline, I'll take ½ inch from this point. This is for my dart on the center piece. Take ½ inch from this side. Okay, can you see what we have? So I'm just going to connect these markings like this, ½ inch, ½ inch, and then I'll slant it downwards like this. So you see I zeroized at the hip line. Okay, so now having achieved this, so I want to do my dart intake on this side. So the under bust measurement I'm working with is 28 inches. So 28 divided by 4, that is 7 inches. So that 7 inches, the difference between the bust and the under bust is what will determine my dart intake here. Okay, so now on this part, I'm going to, so now that I have 9 inches here and I have 7 inches here. So this is what I will do. Let me, so from here to here, I have, remember that I have 4 inches here. So by taking ½ inch for my dart, so I have 3.5. So this was not marked correctly. Let me correct it. Okay, so this is my 3.5 here. So I now have ½ inch here already. So the remainder that I have here is going to be 1.5. Remember that the difference between the bust and the under bust determines the dart intake, so that you have an idea of what you're taking, so that you don't just take randomly, because the everybody's dart intake differs. Okay, so now I have 9 inches here and I have 7 inches here. Remember, I've taken ½ inch here. So what I have left of my 9 inches, it is 1.5. So I'm going to mark 1.5 here. And I'll bring down the same 1.5 on this point. I hope this is clear. So I'm just going to connect them like this. This is the waist and the on the bust. Okay, so I'll bring it down to this point as I'm zeroizing at the hip line. Okay, so then I'll bring in my armhole curve and place it like this. So you want to be very careful with this part. So this is what to do. You can come down by ½ inch from the bust point line so that you connect your curve. So this is my ½ inch here. Considering the size of this person, this is a bust 36. So this person is on the slim side. Okay, so I'm going to come down by ½ inch and then I'll place my curve and then finish off at that ½ inch. Can you see what we have? So this is it. So I'll bring my curve this way too, and then curve this part too to meet the ½ inch mark. Okay, so here we are. So now we'll come to the armhole. So the armhole we're working with is 7.5. So we'll get the midpoint of our 7.5, which is this. I folded my tape into two, so I got the midpoint. So here we are. So I'm going to place my curve like this. I'll come up by ½ inch too from the bust point line. So, and then I'll bring my curve ruler like this and then place it. So I'll connect it like this. So can you see that? Okay. So now to avoid gaping, I'm going to be doing, remember I'm making a princess armhole dart. So I'll come here to this point. I'll come down by ½ inch from this center, the midpoint of my armhole. So I'll come down by ½ inch and mark that ½ inch. Okay. So I'll bring it also like this. So now this is going to be my dart that I will cut out from this point. Okay, so now for the armhole, remember that this is the midpoint of our armhole, and of course the shoulder measurement that we have here is not the same thing we have at the midpoint of the chest. So usually for the front we take away 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so here now at this center armhole, I'm going to just take away my 3/4 inch. I should have done this from the beginning before we started doing this. But I've done, this is just your basic body, so it's what I've done on this channel already. So we'll just come here and connect it like this. So this is the armhole. So ordinarily, this is what my armhole should look like. Let me enter the bust measurement here. So from here, we'll curve it to make this point. So this is what our armhole should look like ordinarily, but we are making a princess armhole bustier. So now I'm going to be extending this line, because by the time we're joining, remember that this is a curved part. This is likely to become shorter than this. This side piece is likely to become shorter than the center piece. So that is why I'm going to come here and extend this line. So if it was our normal basic bodies, we would have cut on this armhole line and that will be all. But I'm coming here now to extend this line. So from this part, from this armhole curve here that we have, I'm going to come in by 2 inches. Usually what you take as your dart, because here I have half inch on this side, here I have 1.5. What you take as your dart, you can just bring it and extend it. By the time we are done, this is the temporal armhole, we can always trim out the excess. Because when we are joining, wherever we join, once we join, once we get to this point, what is left, we trim it out. Okay, I hope we understand. So I'm going to now curve my armhole this way. So can you see? So this is the armhole for the side piece, and this is it for the center piece. I hope that makes sense. So now we'll come here. We've entered our bust measurement already, which is 9 inches. So we'll go ahead and add 2 inches for our sewing allowance. Usually I add extra half inch because I'm going to be doing French finishing. And it's better to have excess allowance than to have shortage. So I add half inch. When I use it to turn my lining in. Okay. So just add half inch here. If you're okay with 2 inches, please add your 2 inches. If you're okay with 1.5, that's fine. But it's always better to be on the safe side. You can always trim out your excess when you are done. Okay, so here we are. The bust measurement is, the under bust measurement is 7. So this is our 7 here. So remember that we have taken a dart of 2 inches. So we'll come here and replace it back. If you don't replace it back, you're going to have a big shortage because we'll be cutting out this part. So I'll replace back my 2 inches. Then I'll go ahead and add the same sewing allowance I added here, which is 2 plus half inch. Okay, so that's 2.5. So the waist measurement is also the same, 28. So the same thing I have here is what I will bring down here. So everything I'm bringing down here is 11 and 3/4. So everything just comes down here. So this is like a straight line here. Okay, so now the hip measurement we're working with is 37. So 37 divided by 4, that will give me 9 and 3/4. 9 1/4, sorry. So plus the same 2 inches, 2.5 inches I added there. Okay, so you can see that as it is, I zeroized at this point, so there's really no need adding that. Okay, but remember that this is my hip line, so I don't want the hip to be straight. I want it to give that A curved shape. Okay, so I'll just come out by 1.5 inches. This is just to give it that A shape. You don't want it to be straight, so that's why I'm not using exactly the hip measurement there. So here we are. So just going to connect the lines like this. Can you see? So I have that nice shape at the down part, and then we'll connect this and bring it to the chest line. So this is what we have. Okay, so now it's time for us to cut. But before we cut, this dart that we have taken out from this place, this half inch, we'll come back and replace it back here. Okay, so we'll come here and replace back the half inch, just like we replace back our darts. If you don't replace it back, you will have a shortage. So this half inch I went up on the shoulder. I'm just going to draw my line. So now this is to replace back what I'll be losing here at this point. Okay, so now for this outfit, it has a really wide neckline. Okay, So I'm going to, it's a canoe neck. So the wider your neckline, the higher it should be. It only makes sense that your neckline, when it is wide, it should be higher. Okay, so here in this case, I'm going to be using a neck width of 5 inches, and for sorry, 5.5 inches, and then I'm going to be using a depth of 3 inches. So here's my 3 inches. I'll bring my armhole curve and connect it like this. Okay, so here we are. So now it's time for us to cut out our fabric. So let me know which this now. So this is what we do. We'll cut. Can you see that? So this is our 3/4 inch. So we'll come here and cut this out. So can you see what we have? So we'll come here and cut the new armhole, which is a temporal armhole. We're going to reshape it when we are done. Okay, so now if you're working with an Ankara fabric, or a fabric that doesn't have a scalloped end like that, you're not working with a lace that has the scalloped end or the lace mount. So if you're not doing that, you come here to this end, that's this side, just go up by 1 inch or 1.5 and curve it like this. Okay, just curve it so that it gives you that nice shape around here. But I'm working with the lace fabric and I'm going to be using the scalloped end, so I don't need to take out this part since it is a lace fabric. So I'm just going to be cutting on the straight line. Okay, so having done this, our front piece is ready. So I'm going to place my fabric so that we can cut the back piece. Our back is just going to be our basic back. So back is back, it doesn't have the princess armhole that. Okay, so I've placed my fabric for the back piece. Okay, so now I have my starting line, which is the shoulder line, the waistline, and the hip line. So now I'm going to be marking from the center back. Take note, my fabric is on fold. From the center back, I'll be marking my zip allowance. I'm using a zip allowance of 1.5. So here is my zip allowance of 1.5. I'm going to connect it this way. So So all measurements will start after the zip allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the same 3/8 inches to get the shoulder slant. And then I'll come down by 1 inch and connect it to the 3 inches. Now I have my shoulder slant. So like I said earlier, the shoulder measurement of my client is 7.5 plus ½ inch for joining the sleeve. So it falls exactly on my 8 inches mark. So I'll come down to enter the armhole, which is 7.5. And then I'll bring the same 8 inches I have here. This is to achieve a straight line. If you don't do this, you're likely to draw a line like this or like this. So please just do it and save yourself the stress of crooked lines. Okay, so here we have our chest line now. It's okay. So on this chest now, this armhole line, I'm going to get the midpoint of the armhole. I'll fold my tape like this. Here's the midpoint. Remember, for the front, we went in by 3/4 of an inch at the midpoint. For the back, we're going in by ½ of an inch. So I'll connect my ½ of an inch back to the shoulder tip like this, and then I'll curve it to the armhole. So before curving to the armhole, I'm going to enter the bust measurement. Bust divided by 4, that's 9 inches. So I'll place my curve so that the armhole will finish off at that point. Can you see? So this is the armhole for the back. So now that I have my chest line, I'll go ahead and enter my sewing allowance. So I enter my sewing allowance of 2 inches. Okay, then plus ½ inch for turning my line. Remember, I entered 2.5 in front. So for the back now, I'm going to enter the waist measurement, which is 7 inches. So 7 plus 2.5 inches, and then 1 inch for that. because we're going to be doing our dart intake at the back. Okay, so now for the hip is 9 and quarter. So here's my 9 and quarter plus 2.5 inches. Remember, I came out by 1.5 to achieve the A shape for the back. So here we are. This is me connecting my lines together. So this is what we have now for our back piece. Okay. So now on the waistline, I'm going to be doing my dart intake. So as usual, we enter the nipple to nipple measurement. Here we have our nipple to nipple measurement. Okay. So I'll also come to the waistline and to the hip line, nipple to nipple measurement plus half. Okay. So this is it. So now this chest line, let me just roll it out like this because we'll need it to achieve our dart. So here too, I'll enter the nipple to nipple measurement. So I'll connect my lines together like this. So having connected my lines together, I'm going to be doing a dart intake of 1 inch. So half inch on this side, half inch on the other side. Remember, I added 1 inch for that. So here, half inch, and then half inch on this side. So, okay. So I'm going to zerize at this point. So I'll come up by 2 inches from the hip line, and then connect my dart like this, and then connect my dart like this also. So from the chest line, I'm just going to come down by half of an inch, and then also connect it like this, and then also this way. So can you see? So this is my dart intake for the back. So now at the center back, I'll be eliminating zipper bulge, okay? Because the back is inward around this place. If you don't eliminate your zipper bulge, you'll see, find out that the zip, the back side will bulge. It will fold around the waistline. So here, I have a total zip allowance of 1.5. I'll be taking away half of an inch from this point, okay? This is the center line. I'm taking away half of an inch. So I'm just going to slant it now towards the hip line. Did you see that? So slant, then I'll go ahead too and slant it all the way. You can stop at the chest line, you can stop at the midpoint of the armhole, you can take it all the way to the neckline. The higher you go, the flatter it will be. But this still depends on the kind of fabric you're using. The more stretchy your fabric is, the higher you should go so that it eliminates it all the way. Remember that the spinal cord didn't stop here. It goes all the way to the neckline. So you just want to your back to be flat. So I prefer to do it all the way to the neckline. Okay, so can you see? Can you see that? So this is what we have. So you see that it looks like a dart. I'll be cutting it out. So remember that we used a neckline of, of 5.5 inches. So the same neck width I used at the back, that's what at the front, that's what I'll be using at the back. So I'm going to mark the same 5.5 inches. So it's a very simple way of doing it. You can just place the front piece here so that you use exactly the same neckline. So if by placing it here, you can see my 5.5 inches. So I can just mark here at this point, and you can do well to reconfirm it. So this is it. So, and then I'll come down by 3 inches. Just the same way I used to this because I'm making a canoe neckline. I want the neck width and the neck depth to be the same for both front and back. Okay, so I'll connect it like this. Okay, so here we are. So now we are done with our back piece. But this dart now, exactly where it is here, that's where I want it to be on the other side because we'll be sewing the dart on both sides. So I'm just going to use my tracing wheel and transfer the dart to the other side. So I'm going to just use my tracing wheel to transfer my dart to the other side. Okay, so this is it. So you just want to make sure that you press it really hard so that it transfers it nicely. So you can see. So this is to eliminate bulge from the back. So by the time we do this, our back will sit well. Okay. So now, remember I talked about that we're going to be making an illusion, that the blouse is going to be an illusion blouse, but it's not going to have a cut up. So what I'll be doing, this is my satin fabric. I'm going to cut out exactly the same thing that I have here on my lace and then also on my lining fabric. Then I'll show us how to achieve the illusion. Okay, so I've cut out my lace fabric. So this was what I was talking about, the scalloped part of the lace. So I won't be hemming this lace. I won't be folding it. So that's why I don't need hemming allowance. So I made my satin same length as the lace, or almost same length as the lace. Okay, so I'll be folding this satin half inch, so that it gives way to that side. That's how it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be exactly the same thing. Okay, so now to achieve the illusion I was talking about, remember that everything now I have, they are all equal. Okay, or they are the same. So this is my centerpiece, and then these are my side pieces, both of them. Can you see? So I'm going to place it like this, gauze point meeting gauze point here. You see, so you can see my dart intake here. So these are my side pieces too, also for the lace. So take note, it's the same thing as the satin. Okay, so now on this satin fabric, I'm going to be doing a new neckline, meaning that I don't want this lace to this satin to get to the neckline of the lace. I want to have the illusion effect where you see this lace is not very transparent, but the idea is to see through this part, to see the skin through this part, and then the satin comes down a little below the neckline. So I'm going to be working with this part here. Okay, so this is where my my side piece and my front and my side piece and the center piece are going to meet together. So I'm going to come down from this point here like this. I'm going to come down by extra 3 inches, or let's do 2.5, 2.5, and then I'll curve it to this part. Can you see? I'll curve it to this part. So let me measure from here. What do I have? I came down by 3.5 inches from here. So by the time I join this and this, so you see the armhole will just stop around here. This will get into the armhole, and then this part of the lace will be bare. So I'm going to cut out this part. Okay, so exactly what I've cut out here, I'm going to place the back piece and also cut out the same thing. So meaning that the inner part, which is the satin, is off shoulder. Meanwhile, the one on top has the full length and even the shoulder. So that is the illusion effect I'm talking about. So I'm going to just place this and then show us how to cut it out also. So I've placed my back pieces together. These are the two back pieces that you see. So now I'm also going ahead to place the front piece, the center front piece on it. So can you see how I placed it? See, you can see that it's stopping at the center back line. That's away from the zip allowance. So the same thing, the same measurement I came down here by is the same 3.5. So this is it. So I'm just going to trace out the same shape. The lace will extend after that's the lace will continue after this has stopped. So my lining fabric, remember that this is doll face satin, so the main lining fabric now is going to be exactly like this, the way this has been trimmed down, and the lace will remain the way it is. I'm going ahead to cut out my second lining. So you can see this is my cotton lining, and then this is my satin fabric. So I went ahead to cut out the wording, that's the pad I'll be using to pad the bustier. So can you see this is the center piece? I went up by 1 inch to create this curve because our busts are not straight at the center. Okay, and then this are also my side pieces. I came in by 3 inches. This is like 2.5 before I cut out the shape. In case you don't know how to cut your pad, I'm going to be dropping the link in the description box so that you check it out later. So this is it. So now, having done this, the next thing to do now is to cut out the basic sleeve, and then we'll cut out our flare, and then we'll get to the sewing table. So to cut the sleeve, this is my leftover fabric. Okay, for the records, I'm using 1 yard, or I used 1 yard of fabric of lace to achieve this blouse. Okay, so this is what I have left. So I'm going to be folding it this way. Can you see what I have? So this is what I have left. So I'm going to be folding it into four like this so that I can cut my two sleeves at the same time. Okay, so the armhole I'm working with is 7.5. So plus my sewing allowance of 2 inches, so I'm looking for 9.5. Okay, so this folded part is going to be my starting point. So I'm looking for a sleeve length, whatever my lace is going to give me. Of course, it will give me a short sleeve. Okay, so this is to 11 inches, just a little above the elbow length. The elbow length of my client is 13 inches. Most adults, your elbow length are 13 inches, or is 13 inches. So I'll make my draw my starting line here. Then I'll come down to enter the calf's height of my client. Our calf's height is 3.5. How did I come about the calf's height? The bust divided by 12 plus half inch will give you the calf's height. Okay, so here's my 3.5. 3.5. Okay, so I'll go ahead and mark the line out like this. So then I'll come on this calf's height line and enter the round armhole, which is 7.5 inches. So here is my 7.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and slant it upwards to meet this line. Okay, so having slanted it, I'll now go ahead and measure it. Can you see now I have 8.5? So when you slant a line, it becomes longer. So the midpoint of my 8.5, that's 4.25. Okay, so now this is down and this is up. So I'll come here and get the midpoint of the upper part, which is going to be 2 and 1/8 of an inch. That's 2 and a bar, right? So here too, I'm going to get the midpoint here also. Can you see? So then I'll go up and mark half inch on the upper part here. I'll mark it upwards, half inch upwards. And then I'll come to the midpoint here and go down by half of an inch. Okay, so that's it. So I'm going to bring my ruler. I'll use the curved part. So now I want to connect this point, and this point. This is the overall center. So I'm going to connect this point to this and then to this. So I'll bring my curved ruler like this and place it. Can you see what I'm doing? So you want to make this, you want to zeroize at this point so that it's like a flat base. Let it just be straight. Can you see that? So I've connected to this point. So I'll bring my ruler this way also, and then I'll place it like this also. Can you see what I'm doing? So I'll connect it like this to this point. So can you see? Now we have the upper round arm for a sleeve. So I'll come here and enter my sewing allowance of 2 inches. So I'll come here to the lower arm, not really the lower, this is the around the elbow area, is 11 inches. So here is my 11 inches. When you divide it by 2, you have 5.5 plus 2 inches. So here we are. I'm just going to go ahead and connect it like this. Can you see how I'm placing my ruler? I'm using the slightly curved part. Okay, so and then this is the whole length I have here. So just going to go ahead and cut it out. So now we have our sleeves. That's for the two hands. Okay, so this is our short basic sleeve. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to cut the flare I'll be attaching to this sleeve. So to determine the circumference of the flare, remember that I added 2 inches for my sewing allowance. I'm going to be shaping the sleeve on 1 inch. That means the remaining 1 inch is for ease so that the sleeve is not tight around there. So that means I'm working with okay, let me work with 6, that's 12. Okay, the actual round arm of this area is 5.5, so I'm just going to add 1 inch for ease, so that will give me 6. So 6 in 2 places because it's on fold, that's 12. I'm going to be dividing 12 by 6.28, which is uh formula for deriving a 360 flare. Okay, so I folded my fabric for the sleeve, and for the flare sleeve I folded into 4. So I divided 12 by 6.28 and I had 1.9. The length of the flare I'm making is 10 inches. The sleeve length I have is already 11. So by the time I join the shoulder, take the half inch to just, I'll be left with 10. So I want my flare to be 10 inches so that at the end of the day I have a sleeve length of 20 inches. So I'm going to be marking my 1.9 on this part. Okay, so here we are. So this is, I want to be very careful because I don't want to join this, I don't want to pleat this flare. I want it to be exactly the round arm of my client. So this is it. I've marked my 1.9. So I'll go ahead and mark the length of the flare. So what I have here is 10.5, so I'll be marking on 10.5. So half inch will be for folding the down part of the flare. Okay, so it's as simple as that. I have my flare. I'm just going to cut it out. So in case this is too fast for you, I'm going to drop the link in the description box so that you check out how to cut your 360 flare. It's very simple. Okay, so I'm using a Mikado satin fabric, so it's quite thick. Mhm. So this is good. So I'm just going to, see, this is half. So by the time I open it, I have my full circle. So this is what we have. So I'm going to cut out the second flare.